1, 2, 3, 4.
There are times I wonder if I'm really alone. There are times I wonder if I'm true. There are times when I feel alone and I'm full roam. There are times I feel alone with you. You are enough of you. And there's always the love for you.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm real or if I'm seen.
I see everything, you are enough for me. You are enough for you.
I was raised Catholic, and growing up in the church, I was heavily involved. I went all the time. I mean, I used to be there hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Like, Mass typically is 45 minutes, but I would go to an extended Mass that was like a couple hours. Then I would also go to CCD, which was like a kind of Catholic school outside of normal school. I went to public school, but occasionally I had to go to these classes, and some of those things were really beautiful and some of them were great. And like, when I tell you that I was in it, I was very, very in it. Kind of considered becoming a priest. Like, I was thinking about like kind of going into deacon, which is like before priesthood. But this thing that kept eating at me over time was how we would, preach all of this love. And like, I don't think that anyone who is Catholic is a bad person, but overall I just couldn't be with that religion because of how they ostracized, the entire queer community, and how ultimately, like, while I was in the pews, even though there's no references to trans people in the Bible and in the teachings and whatnot, there are references to queer people, and it was never anything seen as positive. And I felt like, even though I wasn't quote-unquote acting on it, and even though I was like holding it back and fighting it and struggling with it, and just praying to essentially not be who I am, I felt that I would go to hell just because I had the thoughts in the first place. My exit from the church was not entirely overnight. It was really slow. And what I tell people now is that it's not that I don't believe in some sort of higher power or spirituality. It's just that I don't necessarily believe in religion.
I mean, I'm not religious, and I think being non-binary makes me not want to do organized religion, because the only interactions that I've ever had with religion is, you need to be this way, and it's very stringent and strict, and I just don't fit within that, and I don't know how, being who I am, how to find a way to not, so I think they do.
I'm not religious, but I do feel like I'm spiritual, in that I just believe that we're all kind of connected and there's something bringing us together and we're here for some sort of purpose. And so I think with that and my desire to be my most authentic version of myself so that I can connect with people, in that way my spirituality and gender intersect, because I'm kind of coming into my own and becoming my most authentic self.
My gender doesn't really intersect with the spirituality in any sense. I don't think. I was raised Catholic, but I haven't practiced since I was like 13. Kind of moved away from all of that as I got older, because most of my friends are queer, and I just didn't really like the way they were getting treated in the church. So I kind of just, I just try to live my life being a good person and hope that people are a good person and do that without religion.
I believe in spirituality and definitely like being one within myself and within my environment. So I think in some degree, and with that and my gender, it totally takes some priority, but not heavily, I would say.
My mom kind of spoke for our whole family when she said she was Christian. Whenever there's like any kind of homo romance, she would just get really uncomfortable. But then as like I grew up and like I was like, I'm pagan, and then I'm like, I'm Buddhist, and then I'm like, I'm nothing, I'm just me. Like now I'm just kind of like, there's no problems.
I mean, I don't think that my gender and my spirituality intersect because I don't really have spirituality. I feel really, really agnostic about spirituality. I feel deeply, deeply rooted in science, in things that can be replicated, on things that can be proven. And I think that's much more a product of my upbringing, being raised in a medical family, and trying to stay in really reality-based than my gender in particular. There seems to be a search for why people end up being trans. And for me, I do feel like that's the wrong question, or how we end up being trans, because I love science, and I think the more we try to search for proof of our transness, I feel like we get into pretty dangerous territory, both because then we get to say like, oh cool, well there's now a test you can take to determine if you are actually trans, which feels really scary to me. And then also like, are we ever going to be able to prevent people from being trans? Also terrifying. I do have some kind of like half-cooked ideas about the anthropological or the spiritual or the sacred nature of transness. But that comes from anthropology, it comes from history, it comes from every indigenous culture, almost every indigenous culture seeing anyone who lies between the spectrums as having a gift, as being able to be the bridge between genders. So I guess I have some like half-cocked idea that I've inherited some kind of sacred duty to be a person who can see all sides of an argument, who can bring together people who view the world very, very differently, because I've had access to quite a few different lenses throughout my life.
Thanks for tuning in to Roaming Gender. Check out and participate in our hashtag I'm Your Ally contest to score some Roaming Gender merchandise. Links are in the description, and don't forget to subscribe.